Greetings and blessed love, beautiful people. Welcome to another podcast of Raising Excellence, one of the most valuable 90 minutes of your day. Today, we're going to talk about holistic health, and the theme of today's podcast specifically is Heal Thyself or Healthy Self. And with me today is our psychosomatic illuminator, Agnieszka.
Nice to be here. I had to unmute myself. Oh, look, I didn't rename myself.
And straight from Mexico, we have our opportunity ambassador, Michael.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, and good to be here.
And I enjoy to facilitate freedom in your life. And my name is Dennis. So, you guys healthy?
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
feeling pretty good.
I'm feeling pretty good. How are you feeling, Dennis?
I'm feeling great. I had a really nice session earlier with a bunch of children. They were all full of energy, bouncing all over the place. And so it's a giving and getting, I guess, at the same time. So yeah, they gave me some of their energy. So I'm bouncing on that still.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Holistic health, I like to define and to kind of, look at the root meaning of the words that we're using and that we're throwing around. Not a biggie really with holistic, right? Holistic, whole. There even, from what I understand, is there's different ways of writing it in English, or with a W or with a H at the beginning, but it comes from the whole. So I would like to look us at the whole thing, at the whole entire thing today, and not just at one aspect, but at all the aspects that are or that we can at least conceive of. And health, word healing is in the word health already in the English language. And health, what is health for you guys? How would you define health?
Mind, body, and spirit would be my suggestion.
Feeling
Go
good?
ahead, Agnieszka.
Feeling good. Because if you're not
Good one.
healthy, you don't feel good, right? Like in any way. You may be worried or obsessive, or you may be tired or uncomfortable, or you may be sluggish. I don't know.
Something I realized it that, at least if you look at those labels of certain foods and or even like in certain books and magazines, it seems that health is defined as an absence of disease. But I think health is much more than just that, right?
It's really strange because, like, I had this health coach who was coaching me on being more healthy, and then I realized that fundamentally we didn't have the same worldview where it comes to what's healthy and what's not healthy, and I couldn't work with her because we didn't have the same worldview. And so she was, I believe that having a high percentage of raw foods in my diet is very important for my skin, my nails, and my body. And so I make sure that every day there is a quantity of things that have been unadulterated from the earth, raw fruits and vegetables. Whereas my friend believed that everything is cooked, that's better for you.
So that's just another example of doing it right from the beginning on, right? Like laying out the terms and defining what is actually being talked about. Because then, you might end up working with somebody or starting to work with somebody or discussing something or getting an argument about something that, your definition is totally different from their definition.
Yeah, not even speaking about the same thing.
Yeah. Hmm. I will, I will give a little input like how I came to define holistic health for myself and when I work with friends. So it's, Michael, you said mind, body, and spirit. That's what you said, right? How you define it.
Yes.
And I think that hits home with me as well. As many years ago, I started out, looking at, the physicality of health, at working out as a fitness trainer. And then, later on, like the nutrition, food, became a thing as well. And I was like, oh, that's actually important too. And then even after that, so it's actually funny, like it was like it's a succession of things that, now looking back, I could see that, how each one of those levels kind of became important at a certain stage of my life.
But hang
And
on,
then,
you've always been obsessed with health since you were a kid. I know this. You
That's
know
what
how
she
I know
said.
this? I know this from one simple fact. It's deduction. It's deduction, but it is from one simple fact. Dennis has never tried drugs or alcohol. And so that means that he must have been into health already as a 10-year-old. Because that's in Europe when you try alcohol.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that was a thing.
I
Maybe
personally
just
tried
forgot to
alcohol when
tell.
I was 4, but I was just a
And you're
talented
from,
4-year-old.
that's
I'm
a
from
Polish thing,
Poland. Yeah.
that's an exemption for
Yeah.
people on that side of the world.
No, I would steal little cups like with had a little bit of liqueur left in them, and I would lick them out.
But interesting, like it was way back then for me as well at that age that I can't consciously remember, but like my parents, like, because I was joking, oh, I want some of that too, like of the basic form of nutrition that we have
In Germany,
this side of the
beer.
world, yeah, which is beer. And like, I want to try it. Then my dad was like, okay, here, go ahead. And I was like, oh, I was surprised by that. And then like I didn't, and it's like, I don't know if it was the smell or if there was a situation to it, but it's just, or if it was a moment or a few times like that, but I never had the urge to, and like, or something turned me off, and I just never wanted. And it's interesting. I don't say I never will, or I don't have any, anything, strict against it or whatever. Like, so it is what it is. But I'm not even sure how it came about.
Yeah, see, I
But
didn't
anyhow,
ask. I just took, like, during a party, they all went to the other room. Somebody showed up or something. And then I just took stuff off the table and started trying it out. I wasn't going to ask for permission. That's for suckers.
hey, is there any way like you could let me in the inner circle of the screen sharers?
Oh, the screen share. So sorry about that. Let me see if I can make that happen for you. I didn't know. There
I know
we
it's a
go.
critical thing with Luddites like me, but sometimes you're lucky.
It's not.
Sometimes it's
You did the perfect thing. You were not being a Luddite at all. I think you've graduated from Luddite to like anti-technology person. Just joking.
I'm right
Let's
there
see
with
how
you,
it is.
Dennis.
I'm glad we
Yet you
together.
guys are here on this podcast, entertaining people. All right, holistic health. So, besides drinking alcohol at a very early age, what else can we do to make sure we're healthy and spry well into old age?
Well, let me see here. So, in order maybe to get a better hand on how I would define or how I look at it in a way, from weeks and months back that I have this wheel thing going on. So I will shamelessly just,
What do you call
plug
this
my
wheel
website.
thing? Is it like a Dharma wheel? Yes, your website. Is it like a Dharma wheel or like Colorfrot, or what, do you have a name for it?
I just call it a wheel. It has spokes and it has a hub and it has a rim, and that's just really what it is. I don't really have a name for it. And it's just like it became a metaphor that I started to use, and it seems to pop up like with various situations in my life, and it seems to apply pretty well to many things that I'm involved in, and concepts that I try to pass and share with friends. So what I call holistic life coaching is something that I offer through my website, and so these are some of the factors that I really take into consideration. And personal training is what I just mentioned, where I kind of come from, where like I have a foundation. And then there's other aspects that I really look into and that I try to take care of, and that I work with people on, which is natural healing. So I feel that we are part of nature, and so everything that nature provides also is part of us, and why not use it to optimize our own performance. And going back to the definition of health, if health is more than just the absence of disease, then I feel that health, being healthy and being well-being is actually a word that I would prefer, is means that you realize your full potential, and that's something that's an ongoing thing for me. That's an ongoing quest. So I think we are here to realize our full potential on all levels that we can
Is it possible to
humanly
ever
access.
realize your full potential?
Deep
Yes.
question.
Yes.
I'll say yes.
Yes, says Michael.
Yeah.
But
I will
how?
say so too.
Do you know anybody who has?
Would somebody who would have realized his full potential go around and say, I have realized my full potential?
I don't know, but isn't it like
Alma,
when you
Alma,
Ama? Oh, Ama. I was thinking, when you realize your full potential, don't you just like keel over and die the next second because there's no more point? Like, you're there.
I think
Thanks. I'm
I think
here. I've
it's
arrived. Touch the flag.
I think there's always room for improvement, but you know, at the end of your life, if you've got a smile on your face as you go, you probably pulled it off.
Mm.
Ah, yeah. But you know what? Or maybe. That's so interesting. Because I had that past life regression thing with the guy, the hypnotherapist thing. And in one of the lives that he was showing me, it was a pirate. And that guy died with a smile on his face. He was like, "You idiots didn't catch me for 35 years." Ha 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 ha. He was laughing out loud as he was dying. Did
Yeah.
he reach his full potential? I guess he was a successful pirate for 35 years. Is there a
I'm
full
gonna take it way deep
potential?
now because you asked deep questions, so I give you a deep answer.
Oh, yeah.
So, so if you just take in accept the possibility that there's a divine, that there's a source, that there's something beyond all of what we're experiencing, so that would have realized it, it would have realized its full potential, right? So if after that there was nothing to do, then why would we be here? Why would creation happen as it is? So I'm just pointing at I guess it's a concept again, which is called Leela, Leela, which goes back to the Vedas, and it's about the playful nature of the divine, which doesn't really have any need to do anything, to create anything, but out of this playful mood, playful nature, it created the reality that we find ourselves in. So maybe it's not about only realizing, but it's about playing. It's about being playful.
So
And
you're
playing
saying
with it.
I don't have to reach my full potential. I can just sit down.
Well,
I am sitting
having
down.
in terms of, yeah, it depends who is speaking there, where that question is coming from. You don't have to, you're not forced in that way, but you will still, because that journey, that is the end of the journey, and that is guaranteed for all of us, if I may say so.
One of my favorite statements is the evolution of evolution is the transition from unconscious to conscious choice. And to me, that kind of translates into something that I'm not exactly sure where it came from, but I think like Walter Russell with The Secret of Light and a few other books, that essentially says that, or implies that, the universe is kind of discovering itself consciously. And so like that's kind of the role that we play, is to kind of discover, like in a conscious way, what is unconscious. So I think, I think there's a long way to go with that, but that's kind of our role, is to try and discover as much as we can.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
We
It's
do
the
have a
unveiling.
comment. We have a comment from a listener who says that he totally agrees with Agnieszka. Drugs and alcohol are a big part for so many. And here's where I'm confused. I'm not sure if he's pro drugs and alcohol. Maybe clarify, Julio. Are you pro drugs and alcohol? Because the next sentence is, Dennis is such a health nut. And I don't
You
know if
set me.
Julio wants
Oh,
to
well.
me to publicly share his comments, but I did anyway because it was too much fun.
You set me up big time there, Agnieszka. Two donkeys.
Well, yeah, but because Dennis is such a health nut, he is the best person to teach us about holistic health. Back to you,
uh,
Dennis.
Anyhow, so how I like to look at holistic health is to look at the friend, at the person, at the self that is dealing with me, or that is, putting forward a question, or that, thinks that I can be helpful on his or her journey, is to look at all aspects of that we can perceive of their life. So there's our physical being, as I keep on repeating, there's our emotional being, there's our mind, our mental, our intellectual being, and then there's our spiritual being. Like just simplifying it. We could really go into more detail, but I like to use those four planes basically to explain that we are more than just the physical, and that's and that's like a starting point. So if you look at health, I feel you really will have to look at all of those aspects, and because you cannot, you might have a fantastic biologically healthy physical body with functionality and with vitality, but then there's something wrong on the emotional level, or you're totally out of your mind, as you say, I think in the English language as well. So you might
Crazy,
be
mad.
emotionally balanced, and but
Oh yeah, we're
something
not supposed to
mentally
say
is
that.
not
Right.
where it can be and where it's supposed to be. So to find balance and to find harmony on all levels, that's really something I strive for, like personally. And if people think that I could be helpful on their journey, helping them to find balance and harmony, and to find that true freedom and liberation, which is, I think, we all going to, then that is what I try to explore together with them. And it always has to be a journey, together, because we as humanity are on a journey together. That's how I see it. And yeah, so if you're together on the same path, let's reach out for each other's hands and carry each other along and help us on the way. And that's really what I intend to do with the work that I'm doing here, whether it's with children, through capoeira, or through permaculture, or through holistic life coaching. And I'm gonna share this picture, which this goes back to also ancient yogic tradition, and there you see the depiction of 7 energy centers, which are like the main energy centers, also called chakras in the body. And you can see that, I'm not sure if you can read or if the description is too small, but the idea is just to see that along the spine there are these energy centers, and they represent different levels, or different stages also, in of your being. So it starts with the root chakra, which is where you basically root yourself, where you root your basic instinct, um, is represented with that energy. Then you have the sacral chakra, which is about sexuality as well. It also has to do with beauty, so that energy is also represented by beauty, basically, not only by the ability to procrastinate. And then you go up to the navel area. You have the center for vitality. So that is rooted there. And if you go, you can look at the Chinese tradition. You find different words for similar or the same things. And that is really an ancient science. That is not, somebody invented that yesterday, but that has been around literally for thousands of years, as far as I understand. You have the heart chakra, which is all about emotion and feelings. And then you have the throat chakra, which also, interestingly, it's about communication, right? So it's about relating to others as well. So there's a whole social aspect as well, which I believe is important for health. We are social beings. So that is something we should take into consideration as well. If you talk about health, then how are your relationships, with your family, with your community members, with humanity in itself. How do you relate to others? How can you express yourself? And then, of course, you have the so-called third eye, and the crown chakra is really the higher understanding, the opening, the enlightenment. It stands for the consciousness, for the opening of the consciousness. So these are all centers that we all have, and that exist within each and everyone. And um and so but we have different stages of development in those centers. So some people might be more centered in the lower chakras, other a little higher. So each, like, we are individual beings, um but we have this in common, that we are on a journey of unveiling, developing and opening up our full potential on all of those levels of life. That's what I feel. And yeah, so this is like the direction of how I would define holistic health, and looking at us as holistic beings. How do you feel about that? Is that something that is like way out there so for you, or is that something you can relate to?
I, I would just add that I think with the description of the current situation in society, and this disease or virus that they're calling corona,
Oh, I
it's
thought you were going to talk
interesting that
about Watica. Corona. Okay, sorry.
well, it's interesting that that's kind of like the enlightenment, symbol, is that top phase, and essentially like separating humans from their consciousness. And then really, like the way that things are going with the with security and media, it's all in those like lower level centers where it's about just, like having a roof over my head, and sexuality is kind of the motivation behind pretty much every purchase these days when it comes to the media and their advertising and so forth. But I certainly feel like, the powers that be understand this, and they try and disrupt this, and make it a very unhealthy circumstance for a lot of people. But I see Willow has joined us, so let's say hello to Willow.
Hey Willow, how you doing?
Uncharacteristically late, of course.
I was just
But
going to...
nevertheless, she's here.
She's here, and we love her. I was going to say something that there is still a bit of a dispute among the people who are, the wisdom givers around the chakra system, because there's some disagreement as to where sexuality belongs, whether it belongs in the root chakra or the sacral chakra. And my personal opinion about it is that maybe sexuality in the way of just getting off would belong in the root chakra, but sexuality in a way of connecting on a higher level with somebody to create something new, like whether it's a love relationship or a baby or whatever, that maybe would be in sacral. Because some things are just not cut and dry. Like I noticed on your list, citrine was both in the solar plexus and the sacral, right? Because it comes in both yellow and orange. And so that's just the same with sexuality. I think it comes in both red and orange.
So I actually, I didn't put it that way in my mind, but that's a really interesting perspective on what I was already thinking. I think it maybe gets mixed up when your sexuality becomes your identity, and your identity is your solar plexus, isn't it? But
ego, yeah.
I also think about, there was a lot of my friends in my generation, within like the 4 or 5 grades above me and below me, any person who was not like heterosexual didn't usually have really good relationship with their parents. And so when they tried to like talk about it, their identity, like this identity they had formed around this, was not acknowledged. And I think that greatly affects the root chakra. Even if it isn't a root chakra issue,
could be a sign
really
of times. So it could be a sign of the times, because their parents grew up in a society where it was not acceptable or not as acceptable.
Maybe a helpful perspective could be to look at it from a perspective that these centers, although on that picture that I just showed, they look separate, but they don't really work or function individual, like separately from each other. They're all connected. They're all physical. They're all along our spine. So the possibilities, if you look at them not as separate, but as connected to each other, then the possibilities, and that's what we naturally do every day if you really think about it, because we connect, and that is a possibility right there to consciously connect, the heart with the sacred chakra, so one is not, let's say, better or worse than the other one, but you can bring qualities of the higher chakras to the lower chakras, and you can so they're all together, so they're working together in alignment, right? They are aligned even as we saw them.
Bring the picture up again. I want to tell you something really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, and normally when we talk about chakras, they're considered to be linear, like a conduit that goes up and down the body, right? And energy goes up the chakras and down the chakras, like DNA. But there was this other interpretation that I thought was very interesting, and that is a spiral. So the way the chakras would connect together would be different, because they would go in a spiral. And the spiral would start with the center of balance, which is your heart chakra, right in the middle of that thing, right? And then it would go down to the solar plexus. Hang on, no. Then it would go, it would go up to the throat and down to the solar plexus, up to the third eye and down to the sacral, up to the crown and down to the root. So it would be a spiral that went, you know what I mean? So that all the connections would be connecting with different chakras than we think they do. Because even though they're placed next to each other, the solar plexus connects with the throat. The sacral connects with the third eye. Which is very interesting too, because both sacral and the third eye are in charge of intuition, and both throat and solar plexus express who you really are, your true essence. And both root and crown are basically what holds you on earth, right? Like they're the two end caps.
So in other words, you can, being aware of that, it enables you to bring consciousness into your sexuality. It enables you to bring, heart and mind together, so to say. It enables you to, focusing on, if you're all airy, like way in the upper echelons, to ground yourself. And there's different ways,
Like Willow?
there's you can,
Oh, I'm terrible
but-
at it. Like I'm terrible at fixing the. I always have to go back and realign my root chakra, my sacral, and my solar plexus, like all the time.
Because she lives in the
So-
upper three. Yeah.
if you had to think of someone who would be qualified to talk about health, is there any name that comes to your mind?
Dennis Eckert.
Oh gosh, you're showering with me with how do you call it again in English? I forgot.
Praise?
Are we talking?
With
Praise.
yes.
Are we talking like in general? Like who
Yeah,
are
in
the
general.
health people? Like the World Health Organization's recommended top 5 or something like that?
Those
I
are
don't-
not who I.
I would vote for Amma. She looks like she enjoys a healthy dessert or two.
I'm not.
first
I'm
thing
not
that
only
came to my
hinting at our
mind-
times.
First thing came to
first
your
thing that-
mind?
Historically,
The first thing that came to my mind is, and I wasn't trying to be like, oh, I'm an expert on health, but it's my name. I am the expert on my own health. I can go in and I can tell the doctor something's not right. I have been acting, there is something different, and I don't know what triggered it, but it's definitely something different. And we have that intuition. That's our first line of defense, is us being able to say there's something wrong.
When you said historically, the first name that came to mind was Epicurus. He was not a
Yeah.
picture of health.
How about Albert Schweitzer? He was a doctor
Schweitzer.
that was pretty renowned, way back, 20s, 30s, 40s.
yeah, he studied in the tropics and developed medicines that led to malaria, right? He was the one who basically triggered huge steps forward on combating malaria, as far as I remember.
Well,
I
I
don't-
think he definitely had a hospital in Africa that was pretty renowned, but he treated everybody, for free essentially.
Mhm.
And but I think he did everything sensibly, not with so much of the pharmaceuticals and stuff. So I think he was kind of the older school doctor versus, what we consider a doctor today.
I bet he read the guy that I'm about to quote. You want me to say the name first or the quote first?
Say the quote first.
Positive health requires a knowledge of man's primary constitution and of the powers of various foods, both those natural to them and those resulting from human skill. But eating alone is not enough for health. There must also be exercise, of which the effects must likewise be known. The combination of these two things make regimen. When proper attention is given to the season of the year, the changes of the wind, the age of the individual, and the situation of his home. If there is any deficiency in food or exercise, the body will fall sick. And that's from Hippocrates. How do you pronounce it in English?
Mike?
Hippocrates?
Hippocrates.
me. There you
Thanks,
go.
yeah. Hippocrates.
I don't know, somebody who
And-
actually speaks English should say it.
So I find that really amazing because he's looking obviously at food. So he makes a difference between the natural food, the original natural food that has not been alterated in any way. You talked about raw food earlier, Agnieszka. And then he also talked about the foods that would have undergone some kind of manipulation or some kind of processing, let me say that, through human hand. And then he also talks about exercise. And then he talks about the combination of those two. So to have a regimen, which is like how would you call a regimen? Like it's like a routine. It's not, you're not
Daily
doing one thing
practice.
daily practice, a habit, right? Exactly. Thank you. And then also he talks about that there's a relationship with the season of the year. Oh, So it all makes sense now that some things grow at certain times of the year. And the home also, the home is a place where you live, right? So maybe you live in the tropics, that somebody who live in the tropics might need different foods and different exercise at different times of the day than somebody who lives in a climate zone that is way different from there.
Isn't there
And
a whole study that talks about eating foods that are in season in order to maintain health? Like, I read the French book about it. This French lady is like, yeah, we only eat foods in season. 'Cause they're the right nutrients for the right time of the year or something.
That would
yeah,
definitely make sense to me.
and it's something. It's about going back to the basics as well, which doesn't mean you can't eat nothing, no modern foods, but unless you go back to the basics really, and you develop um, hmm, food is something highly individual, just as we are individual beings as well, right? So it seems logic to me. It's like, okay, nobody on this planet is like I am, has the body, the mind, the abilities that I have, that I have
No,
right now,
most people have drunk alcohol before they were 10. Anyway.
for instance. So maybe nobody else can, just like Willow said earlier, determine what my best health is, what my best way of nutrition is, when and what to eat. Of course, there's guidance and there's people who know more than others, but foundationally it means to me that I, for myself, I have to find out, and there's a regimen and there's processes to do that, what really is good for me, what kind of food are good for me at what time of the year, at what place. Today I might work out 3 hours, tomorrow I might be sitting down, then today it's really hot, then it's like what, 30 degrees outside, and then a couple months from now it's going to be freezing outside. So those outside conditions are changing, my age is changing. So that also means that there's certain needs that have to be covered, or maybe here there's somebody who's studying like all day long and needs to engage his brain and is not moving so much. Somebody at another point of your life, you're working out really heavily. So it seems that the as the conditions of our lives and as our bodies and our being is unique, then also the way how we eat is unique, and it cannot be something how would you say, stagnant, or
Cookie
something,
cutter, yeah.
it cannot,
Static.
it must not be static. Yeah, that's the word, thank you. So it
Stagnant?
has to change.
He said like
Static,
stagnant. So I figured static was like stagnant.
Yeah, that's
But
probably the better
hang on,
word.
can we go back to Epicure? First of all, I remembered his name was Epicure, not Epicurious. That's a company. Second of all, he was a fat guy, and he had the best dinner parties with the most exclusive recipes that he had, taken a lot of time and effort to develop and design and think of for, the mouthfeel, the experience of it. It's not really about health, but he was really cool, right? No?
Well, I think I get, what do you call that? The
The enjoyment of life.
aesthetics, the
But
beauty of.
what part of health, like if I am not having fun, okay, prime example, a lot of women my age have dry eyes. Do you know why? Because those poor suckers are always dieting. Okay, that's just my opinion. Always dieting, eating really low fat foods, but at a certain point, in order to moisturize your body, especially when your hormones are out of whack, you might need a little extra fat. So dieting all the time during menopause, not a good idea, because you may have dry places. I haven't experienced any dry places in my experience, right?
Especially with the skin and the elasticity.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite documentaries, I'm pretty sure the name of it is Fat Fiction, was amazing. It was about this doctor who, in his entire life or his entire career, he had not gotten a single patient off of insulin, working under the health heart, so underneath all of like the actual Rockefeller doctors' offices. And when he switched to nutritional health, which until recently, moderately recently, not sure on the times, was considered like pseudoscience and taboo. Like, you weren't a real doctor if you talked about it, and you won't be approved by real doctors if you talk about it. But as soon as they switched to this basically a keto or high fat, low carb diet, they got like quite a few of their patients, like way more than they started getting patients off of insulin. I think the lowest amount of time it took a 1 week to get someone off of insulin. I was like,
There's another
holy
good
crap.
example for that. His name is Dr. Cousins. He has he propagates raw food, and he did a documentary quite a few years back, where they chose, it was a group, was it about 12 people from all over the US that all had diabetes type 1 and type 2, and he put them on the documentary is about like a 30-day journey on those people's lives, and what happens to them, and the breakdowns and the mental thing that's going on, and then also like
Typical
what happened to
American
their
TV.
insulin intake. Yeah, really, really
Breakdowns.
interesting, and you can see like profound transformations within just a month
Nice.
of them being on 100% vegan raw food diet, and some of them came completely off, some of them were able to cut it back drastically, type 1 and type 2. So that just confirms as well, the possibilities that are there. And a lot of people say, oh, it's it can't be healed, and it's like, oh, it's a lifelong condition, and other people earn a lot on that as well. But it just
Earn
shows
a
that
lot.
the
Yeah.
potential the potential is really there. And there's another quote: illness do not come upon us out of the blue. They are developed from small daily sins against nature. When enough
Ooh.
sins have accumulated, illnesses will suddenly appear. And that's also Hippocrates. What kind of sins are you guys dealing with on a daily basis?
I'm so glad that you mentioned it that way, because I've recently started thinking about like my religious history, my past growing up, and how a lot of things that I did were apparently sinful, and I never really understood what sinful meant. I thought it meant immoral. I thought it meant like doing something that was just not right. And
Wait,
then
immoral where the morality is relative or static?
I would say static, because I don't believe that morality is relative, but I know many people who do. And we've had very interesting conversations, but I can't agree. I think I would lose my mind if I thought that reality or morality was subjective. There wasn't a right or wrong. But that's just me.
I
That's just how
recommend
I
the
think.
James True from this morning. That was a really good episode.
But I've started to recently contemplate that maybe sins were things that were actually detrimental to your health. And I started thinking about like, why would it be detrimental to your health to be coveting your neighbor's wife? And then I was like, oh wait,
Your wife
I
in a
understand
frying pan.
exactly. I understand exactly why that could be detrimental to your health. It could put you in a bad social situation that cuts you off from your social network. And in turn, even if say you're having good nutrition but you don't have a good social network and you have no community, you might fall sick. Like you might fall ill to illness.
Oh.
Like illness might, and maybe this is where like superstitions came from, where like if you were sick or you were decrepit, that you had been like awful, and so therefore illness followed you.
Because you no longer have your wife to cook for you. But if the wife was Polish, it would end much faster. It wouldn't go to that illness, and like she would have use her frying pan or rolling pin.
Either
or something.
way, it's still detrimental to the health of the person.
Well, the point being
That's
the importance of the social network and the community being functional, right? Which of course is like, different societies, you have different rules and different ways of living together. And but I guess that would be a basis for our Western so-called
Another point I wanted to make,
society.
I found this out when I watched Inside Out. They talked about disgust being the poison tester, making sure that you're not poisoned like by food or by social, and it explains why there's disgust in the psyche about things you put in like food that you put in your mouth that you find disgusting, and then certain people that you're like, ooh, no, that's yucky. I want to go away from that.
So heal thyself is the title for today, right? What does Hippocrates say to the title of today? He says, if you are not your own doctor, you are a fool. So I think that's a short and a good one, and it strengthens me in taking self-responsibility for my own life. And if I don't have the time or the notion to occupy myself and to educate myself about what I'm eating, when to eat, how to exercise, what to do, like how to connect, how to improve my communication, how to, do the inner work, then maybe associate with people who are experts in those areas, and yeah, and get their knowledge and get their wisdom and their experience, to help me on my journey, which is what we're doing right here as well, right? We're offering our expertise and our background, our perspective on health in the end. And I find it very interesting, like Willow is dealing with emotional trauma, especially. Agnieszka, you're looking at people's faces and reading them, and you can get a clear picture of where somebody is on many levels through the physical appearance. That's super interesting. And Michael, you're super into community building, right? That's something that you have been working on and working with and working for many years. So I find it very interesting how each one of us has his own little expertise and experience as well, to come at health really from a specific angle. And then how I see my role, like when I talk with people and with friends that seek help, or that want to make moves, want to move forward on their journey. It's like it's always like to find out where's the open space, where's, or is he or she working out already? Okay, so they're in the physical, so let me try enter to that door. And okay, like, oh, you're working out, or you're doing this, you're doing that. Oh, okay, and then and to have proper energy, and to or you want to gain weight, or you want to lose weight. Okay, so what are you eating? Oh yeah, it makes sense. Okay, because I eat like this, I have more energy, I can work out better. So it becomes logical. If somebody is very much like in the mind, but has really neglected his or her body, then it's like, oh, how can we enter through where he or she is already established, and is and feels well and is comfortable, and then trying at the pace that of course is comfortable and um is appropriate for the situation. That work through all of those different levels that we have touched upon earlier, with the example of the different chakras, and kind of radiate out and become, and help people to become aware of their holistic being, of their entire being.
Yeah, I'd like to hit on that as well, because I think the thing you mentioned about, if you're not being your own doctor, you're a fool. It is really your own responsibility, and that's really one of those areas where we do have to take responsibility for ourselves, but we can also kind of elevate ourselves and make ourselves feel like we're in control. That we have the right information, that the things that are going on inside us as well as around us are the things that we want, and that does have to do with how we engage with other people. Willow, you can verify this on me, but in the book The Body Keeps the Score, isn't there a part where it says like your social network really determines like your health? Like the more than likely the people that have no social support are the ones that are the worst off, the ones that get all the diseases, that have the illnesses and so forth. Like,
I can't remember if it actually like directly says that, but it does insinuate it, or imply it, because statistically, if you have experienced trauma and it is not healed, which means you didn't have a support system to help you heal it, you will use the medical system at like, I think it's 300 times the rate. It was over 100 times the rate of an average person. And the other one was, this is a hard statement for a lot of trauma survivors to really get, and it can feel like triggering sometimes, so be warned. The most traumatic part of it wasn't the physical abuse, it wasn't the sexual abuse, it wasn't the neglect, it wasn't what happened, although that was very traumatic and awful and never should have happened. The real trauma happened when those children went back to their parents and said, "This is how I feel," and they didn't get heard. And so they internalized it. They said, "Oh, okay, this isn't something that they can help me with. I'm just going to have to live with all of these feelings." And then they lock that part of them away, and it becomes an exile that a person like me will try to meet, or when they're older and better equipped and they do have the emotional support system, whether it be one that they've made themselves or they have found you don't heal until you feel a safe place to heal.
I'm hearing that what I said earlier is something that you would do. Then you would approach that place which is vulnerable, which has been locked away, which is, you know, traumatic even to look at and to go into, and you would enter it through, you know, of course at will and at the wish of the client, of the person that you're dealing with, and you would enter it by, you know, through social contact, through, you know, different techniques that you have up your sleeve in order to slowly work yourself towards that, you know, that locked away door. Is that what you do when you work with people?
Yes, and I do my best to not argue. I don't care if what you're telling me sounds implausible or like maybe you made some mistakes. I don't care. You just need to say it. Whatever you think happened, whatever you know happened, whatever is going on, whatever you're feeling, you need to know that there is a moment and a place for that to be heard, and that some people will hear you, because that is probably the first step. When you feel heard, you start to really understand like how you all the stuff you locked away. Someone else has to hear it first. You have to express it, which is also, I found a lot of people who have experienced trauma have really big issues with their throat chakra.
Because they
I
can't
will
speak.
Shamelessly
And also, hang on, and
share.
also their lips, Willow, people who've experienced trauma, often their lips will be narrowed sideways, like this way. They'll be smaller because they're refusing to speak about it. So their lips actually.
Yeah, mine do the
Yours
they get
disappear
thin because I don't like the way I look when I go. So because my grandmother used to do that look, and every time I feel my face forming into that face, I just go and just, you know, bite my tongue.
Well, but either way, if you're flattening this way or shortening this way, still not letting yourself express, right? Adam shared a really interesting definition. Am I
Of?
the word doctor?
Mm-hmm.
So it's an No, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, can I say one more thing about like how it's important? Because I had actually just shared a post on Facebook that got some backlash from a couple people about how it's really important to, when children say that they're done eating, to honor that and say, okay, you're done eating. You say you're full, because they need to know what full feels like and what hungry feels like, so that they can later as adults and be like, oh, I'm feeling angry and I'm hungry. Maybe I'm feeling angry because I'm hungry. Like letting children be able to understand what's going on and make their own decisions and reap the consequences, and like having the patience to sit with that, because it's really annoying when you know how to fix it, is really
to ask them if
important.
they're satisfied instead of saying
That
don't eat
is
until you're
an
full, eat until you're
excellent way to
satisfied.
put that.
Anyway, I was gonna shamelessly plug the website again, but a different segment of it, which is the capoeira segment, where by coincidence there's another wheel right there.
By
and that's
coincidence.
Just to highlight, and that's just to highlight like how I use that same metaphor, if you want, you know, to work with capoeira, which is an Afro-Brazilian martial art. So if I start out with people there, whether it's children or adults, they most of the time they come to it because, you know, they're into the sport. Oh, well, it's a sport, or oh, it's some other people. Oh, it's a martial art and the whole fighting thing. And then, you know, there's a few who like, oh, I love this music, and it's all of that as well. But, you know, like if you look at the spokes, then people would come, you know, seeing maybe one, two, the most maybe like three of those spokes, and there's many more. Those are just like a selection, basically, right? As an example. But then isn't it the same thing like for health? You know, like if you're starting to look at your own health, if you start to really, you know, look at yourself and you know, who are you, what's going on there? Okay, I have my body, yeah, that's true. Sometimes I have emotions are there too. Okay, I have my thoughts, okay, these are there too. Like, and it seems that as you progress in life, at least that might be a tendency for many of us, you know, we accumulate certain experiences and wisdom, so we start to see more, you know, in ourselves and in the world as well. And then so that is something I really can see, is like even in capoeira, it's like, oh, I see the martial art, okay, come train it. There's the martial art, I teach you the martial art. And then afterwards, like, whoa, but this music, like, how do you play those instruments? That's really empowering. The energy, I want to learn to play. Okay, here, Boof, here's the music. And it's like, after a while, wow, okay, but what about, where does this come from? Like, who did it and why? It's like, there's culture, there's history to it, and there's a philosophy like in the songs, and and are we playing? Oh, we're playing, but we're fighting too. And there's all these things, so little by little, slowly this whole world will basically unveil and reveal itself in front of you. So what I think, how I see our roles is to, through our work and with our specific spoke or with our angle and perspective, um, we are helping people to access their own self, and to bring more awareness into their own life, and then to suddenly see, oh, there's a little more, and there's more to that, and there's more to this, and then, oh, look at this book, and talk to this guy, or talk to this lady, and let her read your face. And so, little by little, like we really facilitate people's freedom journey, and help them to recognize and to see who they are for themselves. And yeah, so that is behind the wheel that I've been using, and that I have been applying for different aspects of our lives and of my work.
People have been using
So,
wheel for thousands of years to represent stuff like that.
Good, we invented the wheel.
so if people are in general complaining about lack of energy, or being depressed, or I guess what would be kind of some of the general circumstances that a lot of people face these days. If you listen to some of the medical commercials, they list off all these symptoms,
Yeah,
and it's pretty much what people are experiencing on a daily
that's
basis
that's a
across the
great
board.
example, right? So how would you address that? And if
No.
you, and if I put that in the wheel, it's like, okay, so somebody has lack of energy, and so, like, how will I address it? Like, who is he or she? Like, where are they in life? It's like, I could open the fridge and, like, okay, like, show me the inside of your fridge. Like, write down what to eat, for a month, every day, or for a week. So that would be one angle. It's like, okay, so working out. Okay, so what kind of workout do you do? Like, how many steps do you walk every day? Like, what do you do actively with your physical body? Is there any exercise you do, any regimen, and from that way? So that's another angle, that you could analyze. Or, like, what about your thought patterns? Like, write down what you think, even if it's just for an hour, or during the whole day. Like the journaling, which is your expertise, Michael, that you have been guiding us through, is like, okay, journal. Like, what's in your mind? The mind clutter. Like, visualize it. Put it in writing. Different techniques of bringing that out to, just to bring that to the surface, basically, and confront people with their own condition, with their mental condition, with their physical condition. And so what about the emotions? It's like, oh, what kind of trauma is there? Let's go back, to your childhood. Let's go, different techniques. How can we bring that up? Like, what's on your, what really, is there something that wears you down? Is there something that depresses you, from that kind of angle? And then I think, well, it depends, like, how open people are and how much they want it, right? Because there has to be a basic motivation from themselves. They have to want it by themselves. It's like, I don't see myself as the entertainer, the hotel that jumps up and down, like a clown in front of people, and tries to get them up, from their beers, alcohol, and whatever, to go, jump up and down, and be like happy, happy, happy. But it's like, if I see, if if you make the first step, then I'll be happy to make, 10, and then to give what I can give you, to, to go with the energy that you set out. But there has to be, like, and the wood has to be dry in order to be, in order to catch fire. So, I'll be happy to, with whatever little fire that I have accumulated, to light your wood. But you have to be dry, you have to be well dry, and you have to be ready to see that, even, right? If you're not ready for that, then you wouldn't even see opportunity in engaging with somebody who might be willing or able to help you on your journey.
I like to say that you can't just want it. You have to be willing to go and search for it. It has to be a desire. Like, you have to be willing to put in some effort and work for it and move your feet in the direction of wherever it is.
Yeah, how the saying goes, if you make one step towards God, he starts running towards you.
I like that one.
That is so accurate. That has been like my life since, well, yeah, since I started like searching for answers. The universe is like, here, you want them? Here they all are. Good luck sifting through them.
The abundance mindset. That's kind of a clue.
The abundance of nature, right? Which is all there. Look at the mango tree, how they mango for stone dog, they say in Jamaica. So many mangoes that you could stone dogs with it. The Hippocrates says the physician treats, but nature heals. Big one, huh? What if nature works it's miraculous ways through people sometimes as well, which are part of nature.
Well, I think that's a great approach, and the idea. I think the idea that I'm getting here is that our natural state is really healthy. It's just a matter of being able to understand where that harmony or balance is, so that we can maintain it. And unfortunately, we've been kind of taught all these things that just take us out of balance all the time. And then of course the medical system preys on that by telling us, oh well, you got this, we got to cut that out, we got to sew that up, we got to get rid of that, you got to take these pills.
Yeah, what's the deal with like preemptively taking out like the whole tonsil thing? Every kid needs their tonsil cut out. It's also one of the it's one of those flimsy excuses for circumcision too, because you'll get infections, and I'm like,
Tonsils really are.
if you're not right-handed, then taking your left hand is just fine.
Sorry, Lawrence. Thank you. Lawrence said they couldn't hear me, and they couldn't hear me. I was saying that what's with all the parts of the body that we don't need, like the tonsils, the appendix, and then Willow said the foreskin too. There are so many parts of the body. Wisdom teeth, right? I said wisdom teeth too. All these parts of the body we're told, that doesn't do anything, but doesn't it?
The tonsils are an early alert system, actually. They will recognize foreign things that come into your body from early on and give signals to the rest of your body.
Well, and it swells up right here, so you really feel it, and you can touch it. You know what I mean? Like
anything that goes
it's
down
very
your throat,
visible.
it has to go past them. So it's like a check, a checking for what's coming in. The greatest medicine of all is teaching people how to not need it.
So Lawrence and Adam have been looking at some definitions. So it's quite interesting because Adam looked up doctor in origin Middle English, learned person, a doctor of the church, which is interesting. And it comes from Old French and from Latin, doctor being teacher, from docere, right? So that's interesting. And then Lawrence looked up another definition of doctor from the older dictionary. And in the 1590s, it said to confer the degree of doctor on. In 1712, the word doctor meant to treat as a doctor, to administer medical treatment. However, in 1774, to alter, to disguise for the purpose of deception, to falsify, as related to the word doctoring.
Wow.
1774 too.
So is physician the proper word for what we're talking about as doctor these days, or is it something else?
So then Lawrence also looks up medico for us, medical practitioner from 1680s, from Spanish medico and Italian medico, medicus, physician, healing. From med to mediate, right, take appropriate measures.
Well, that kind of suggests balance and harmony to some degree, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for the etymology of the word diagnostic or diagnosis, because gnosis means knowledge, and I don't remember what dia meant.
It means two, doesn't it? Die.
I don't think it was something. It was pertaining to
Lawrence. Can you help us out?
How it was pertaining
Look up
to
diagnostic.
A lot of the diagnoses that people have, like narcolepsy.
Yeah.
Like narcolepsy, for example. Narcolepsy is not a diagnosis. It's just labeling the symptoms that I have. They don't know where it came from, and they're not able to fix it. They're not
just
able
like
to
IBS.
treat it.
IBS is one of those too. They have no idea.
The diagnosis, the actual etymology of the word, it doesn't fit. Most people don't have a diagnosis because the actual definition, I can't remember what I'm looking for it, but it's really hard to find good translations in Latin.
Go and look it up. I'll quote another Hippocrates right here. Foolish the doctor who despises the knowledge acquired by the ancients.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay, so dia is not two, but it's between. So it's between the two. So knowledge between.
So it sounds like a choice.
So dia, so to know thoroughly, to know between the two options, I guess, or maybe dia. Well, dia, according to this, it says to know
According
apart.
to this, it translates it to able to distinguish with knowledge. So you're able to, with knowledge, appropriately like distinguish what this is and where it came from.
Yes. And GNO is to know. Right. Good. Which is actually the same word. Gnosis. Knowledge. Anyway, back to away from the dictionary, everybody. Oh no, Lawrence is still looking up diagnosis in that really old dictionary he was using that had the stuff from the 1680s. That was cool. I hope he is.
That would be interesting to see what his book has to say.
Yeah.
Well, I would think it would be making a choice based on the best knowledge available, right?
Yeah, taking into consideration everything. But that's not how it's used now.
Wherever the art of medicine is love, there is also love of humanity.
And in my experience, yes, of course. In my experience, it's not so much like a diagnosis, but it's more like an exploration. Like, what does this work? No, that doesn't work. Okay, does this work? No. Oh, this works. Okay, good. Let's do this from now on. Not eating that one thing is good. Oh, we got Lawrence, 1680s. There we go. Diagnosis, scientific discrimination, especially in pathology, the recognition of a disease from its symptoms, medical Latin application of the Greek word diagnosis, discerning, distinguishing.
That was the word that came to my mind, discrimination. To discriminate between one and the other. What works, what doesn't work, the good from the bad. So you have to be, like you said, you have to be knowledgeable. You have to be aware that there are actually two. That's not like just one, but there's actually the two gives you an option then, and to discriminate between what is good for you, what is bad for you, your physical food, your what you put on your mind, the emotions that you let in as well, because there's also so you can be in control. And going back to the beginning of the show, you can use the power of your mind to influence your emotions, right? So maybe it's not without reason that the head, which stands for the mind, is above the center of the emotions, or above the sacred, the sexual center, above the the grounding center as well, the root chakra. And so it seems that we have not been made, and that the reality that we're living in is not being made without without design, without an amazing design actually. And if it is true that, which is what Hippocrates says as well, that a wise man ought to realize that health is the most valuable possession, would you subscribe to that?
Yeah, I
yes.
think that's true.
If
After
that is
pulling
true,
a back muscle at 29 years old and being laid up in bed for 2 days, yes, I wholeheartedly agree. Your health it makes you go crazy if you don't have it.
yeah. And most of us, just like with everything else, we just realize how valuable it is once we have lost it, or once it has been compromised, just as you said with the example. But Mike, you were saying?
Well, I was going to say that, it seems to me, again, here, just collecting all the data that you've been giving us, that is that, somebody that looks at the whole picture is probably the best bet at getting you the correct diagnosis. And, a lot of the medical system, now they're just giving you a test, and they're saying, oh, you got it. Doesn't matter if they, where you were, what you were doing, what you were eating, how you were thinking, all these other things that matter, that create the whole. And someone that's not examining all those things is really giving you a very, very poor diagnosis.
Yeah, that
well, it's looking at the body. It's looking at the body as if it is a unique entity, and it is in a way, but the problem is it's almost like you have a car, and I'm not good with cars. I know that there's a gear somewhere in a car, so I'm going to use this analogy. It's like looking at a gear and being like, this is the only part that matters. If this part is running, everything else will run. But we're not like that. Like, we are parts of an environment. We need to see what other parts we interact with, and like our whole ecosystem, because we're not individual creatures who just act completely autonomous. Like, we act autonomously, but not separate from our environment. Everything we do has a reaction, has an influence. And if you have that kind of power, everyone else does too.
So if you take that into consideration and you put it together, what you just said, Michael, then it's, can you even truly be aware of what is going on, in your life with your body, if you take into consideration all the cause and effects that would have happened, throughout your life, if you want to take that as a possibility, your previous lives, what has been given down, from your ancestors to you. If you look in the mirror, you don't remember your great grandfather, but he shows up in your face. You share the same nose with him, for example. So like all those cause and effects of everything that you did here, and that you would have experienced, and that your foreparents actually also influence you in this life today. What happened to people that you don't even know physically in this life, that you've never seen, but they still influence you right here and right now. And then you try to to perceive all of that. It's like, it's mind-boggling. And then but if you take that into consideration, and then you listen to somebody in a white coat, and not to disregard them, because modern medicine also has its place, I feel firmly. If I have an accident or need some kind of like, but I drop off a bridge and I need somebody to fix my arm or whatever, like, I'll be happily going there. But to, like you said, to listen to somebody who does not does not look at the whole picture, or who does not recognize that the part of the picture or the part of the puzzle that he or she sees is just like minute, and doesn't even have the appreciation and the respect for the fact that we don't really truly understand anything what's going on. We're really just in the dark with a small little like match, and trying to light, and it might make sense for you but not for me, and maybe today, but the same thing won't work tomorrow. So just to have that appreciation of the complexity of things I think is a good base of of humbling yourself, and then working with the individual in the moment, but considering that there are many factors that we don't even realize exist.
Just think about how many years, just 2 seconds, how many years it took to diagnose for me to diagnose my own inability, like, to digest meat. Like, that was just such a foreign thing. I couldn't, 10 years. It took 10 years for me to figure out that that's what was making me sick.
Well, I was just going to point out that story of like this, I think it's the 6 blind men that are examining an elephant, and one got the tail, and he says it's like a rope, and one's got the leg, and it's like a tree, and one's like against the side, and it's a wall, and so on and so forth. That's kind of that's the system that we're relying on to tell us what's supposed to be happening, and the fact that we're not looking at the whole, we're looking at the individual, and saying, oh yeah, well that guy's right. He's been doing it for 40 years. Yeah. He knows what's going on. It's just it's that perspective that makes the difference. It's not it doesn't matter how long they've been doing it. If they're from the wrong perspective, they're seeing it from the wrong light, they're getting it wrong. And it's just that simple.
And like, if I look at it from a permaculture view, we were talking about that just last week. Then if you look at the main picture, and you get the main frame right, the design of I don't know if it's a balcony or like a huge landscape, but you see, water comes from there, we're going to store this here, or the sun comes up here and goes down there, and you have all those main factors like figured out. Then the details, like, if you mess up them, that's not such a big thing. But if you put a house like in the wrong place, or you put your dam in the wrong place, where water don't fall, don't accumulate, then you screwed up big time. So to get the main, the type A, I think, was it Bill Mollison said that, the type A, or Jeff Lawton, like, to don't make a a type A error basically in the design. If you get that done, then you don't actually have to be knowledgeable of all the details, especially not in our times, because if you have a overview of what's going on and where you put things and what's going on with your health maybe, or with the patient or with the friend that you're dealing with, then to look up the details, it's easy to call up an expert. Everybody's an expert today in some kind of field. We're highly specialized and know how to figure out this and that computer program. A lot of this talking, but then people have problems to, I don't know, like make an omelet or tie their shoelaces. So if you go back just like 50 years, then so if you analyze what people could do, like the physical skills that they had, they were much more varied than today. Like today we're highly specialized, but even if you look at athletes, that's a great example. We're talking about health, and so athletes might be highly specialized in a task and might be really great there, better than anybody else in history. But then as soon as they step like one side to the left or one side to the right and they try something else, like, oh, I look at them, oh, injury, or can't work, this and that went wrong. So it's like if you get the main picture right, the main frame right, then the experts and the details, you can look them up. There's the internet, there's books, there's experts, and you can always figure that out. But I think there's a lot of value in having a general idea, a general overview over your own health and where you are right there. And then it's like, oh, something seems to be wrong with my body or with my workout, like something's not working. And it's like, oh, let me go talk to a trainer or read some books and go look up some websites, and you can figure that out. But first you have to know, oh, something is wrong. It's like, oh, what happened to my leg? Like I was working out wrong, or what happened to my something what I'm eating is wrong. Like I always feel sick after dinner. Like, what is my wife cooking for me?
Well, I think Bruce Lipton with the epigenetics, he points out the nocebo versus placebo, that like in a lot of cases we can think something is wrong and it will be wrong because we think it. And so that's also a concern, is that we, before we go down that path, we do need to have, a support system. We have to have people around us that can guide us down a path that kind of gives us the correct information, rather than just allowing experts to tell us that, oh, something's wrong or something's right, or this is the way to go, this is the good thing, that's the bad thing.
But everybody's so individual. Everybody's so individual. Like in my case, I saw so many doctors during those 10 years, and everybody had a different idea. Oh yeah, it's your vitamin B intake, you need to eat more meat. Well, that didn't help. Oh, it's this, oh, it's that. You know what I mean? Like all of these things were tried and tested, and all these allergies tested, but nobody ever checked for meat allergy because it's so uncommon, right?
Well, but the thing is like, if you found somebody that had a similar situation to what you had, right? More than likely, that would be much better information than some doctor that's never seen this before. Well, it sounds like this. Though the book says the symptoms, oh, that means it's this.
Yeah, it's a really weird energy. Once I read an article that talked about cutting pizza with the same knife, like with meat and without meat. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what was making me sick, because I haven't been eating meat and I was still sick. And this other girl's like, yeah, don't cut your pizza with the same knife you've cut meat pizza with. I didn't know I was that sensitive. But at the time, I was like, mind blown.
Well, I was going to take it back to what Mike was saying about how it can be really difficult to, unless you have experienced it, maybe you're not giving out the right information. I actually just recently had this experience about panic attacks. Had a friend ask me, they were like, I think my anxiety is getting the best of me. I think I might be having a panic attack. And I was like, okay, well, describe to me what you're feeling. And she was like, it's in my stomach and it's in my chest. And she was like, I don't know how to, I just feel. And I was like, do you feel like you need to vomit, but you're not sick? And she's like, yes, that's exactly what I'm feeling. Like, you're having a panic attack. I know what that feels like, because I thought the same thing when I had one. And I was like, I feel like I want to vomit. Like, I feel like it could just like come up at any moment, but my stomach is not upset. And it's really weird, because usually that's why I vomit, because my stomach is upset. And then I was able to identify it as a panic attack. And the first panic attack I had was like this ball in my throat. You get that ball in your throat when you're about to cry, but you don't cry, and it just sticks right there. That's what it felt like, except for I felt perfectly fine. I was like, I don't want to cry, but this makes me feel like I want to cry. I don't understand. And it wasn't until someone else had that experience, and they were like, yeah, it can feel like that sometimes. It really helps to have a support system that understands what you're feeling and understands that you're not trying to lie about it. But you also have to hold yourself accountable and not use it as an excuse. And if you do use it as an excuse, admit to it and be like, I totally use that as an excuse.
So, to to change the gear a little bit, is it a, let me ask this question. Is it possible in this lifetime for you right here and right now in your own life to achieve well-being, total well-being? And when I say total well-being, we're talking about holistic health. I mean, physical well-being, mental, emotional, spiritual well-being, even financial well-being, social well-being. Is that a possibility for you right here and right now? Or
I
is that
think it's
something that,
always a little bit of a give and take. Do I eat the cheesecake or do I go for a walk? Do I eat the cheesecake or do I go for a walk? So, you can't have both.
Oh, come on. You can
I
go
can
you
have
eat the
both.
cheesecake and go for a walk too.
You can eat the cheesecake on the walk.
That's true.
you can get it on.
That was a bad example. You knew that was going to be derailed.
Which is where I was going with it, because if you accept that that's a possibility, that is, that there is a possibility, then, that is also, that is for some people, that is a huge step already, to see that, to see that there's a possibility for that, and that it's not something, okay, oh, that's just a TV thing, oh, that's some, because if you really look at it, like, we have been really trained to keep on striving for something that's really unrealistic, and then it's like we're sabotaging ourselves, like, subconsciously already, because that's something, I see it on the TV, and it's nice, and like I indulge in it, and it's like I want to believe, and then as soon as I step out of the movie theater or away from the TV, it's like reality hits in, and it's never as shiny, never as nice as we see it, as we have been taught, and we feel that we're really running after the carrot that somebody's holding from behind us, in front of us for our entire lives. But to acknowledge that the opportunity for total well-being is there here and now, independent, like, of anybody else acting and doing, but like taking self-responsibility and taking things in our own hands, that we can create change, change for change, like, towards freedom, towards total liberation, to free ourselves in every way. And we can do that right here and right now. It's like, how long does it take you to change your body? Okay, like, there's a delay system right there, like some of your organs, they renew themselves like within weeks, others, like your teeth, take years and years. But it's like, how long does it take you to think differently? How long does it take you to change your emotion right here and right now? Is there a possibility
I have a
of doing this right
question.
now?
I have a question for you guys. So I understand why somebody would choose cheesecake over going for a walk. Get that, totally. But say somebody was diagnosed with something, like they went to the hospital, they had this thing, and they were told that, you have to change your ways. And then they were like, oh my gosh, I don't want to die. This is so bad. But then they go up and eat more cheesecake. See, that part I don't understand.
Like the people who are still smoking cigarettes with their oxygen tank.
Yeah, like those people. And, how does that come about to actually go, oh, I'm in so much pain. Let me, just stab myself in the eye, too.
I don't know about how it gets to that point without some sort of change, because I quit smoking cigarettes before I got to that point.
Me too.
But I often imagine myself in that position, and I often imagine myself unable to stop smoking, that I thought that I was going to be that person who was still smoking with an oxygen tank. Because in your mind, when you want that cigarette, when you want that thing, it is the life raft that's going to keep your shit
Yeah, but you
together
gotta want
for
feeling
long
good.
enough.
You gotta
It is a
want
perfect
feeling
example
good
for
more.
self-sabotaging, right?
Not
Like
if
the behaviors that you're describing, it is basically sabotaging yourself. If you do something like eating the cheesecake and somewhere within you feel that that's the wrong thing or you shouldn't do it or that's bad and but I still want it, but I do it. So there's already like something, going on inside. Like why are you not able to take the cheesecake, look at it and take a bite and taste it and be happy and perfectly well with it without labeling yourself or putting yourself down? That is 1,000 times better from my view than taking something and doing it and like feeling no that's bad, or if I eat this, there's chemicals, that's bad, that's gonna make me fat, that's gonna but I still eat it because I want it in the booth. And that's what's creating the discrepancy, really.
That's
That's what
probably that probably
derails you.
causes cancer. Seriously, that kind of thinking. Whenever I eat cheesecake, I'm proud of myself.
Well,
I'm just ecstatic.
that's what I would say is that there's positives, there's pluses, and there's minuses to everything, and that there could be some things about that smoking cigarettes or eating cheesecake that are good for you, that do something good for you, and that's so it's about figuring out those things. Like, okay, so I'm smoking cigarettes, but it's because I'm taking a break, because that gives me a chance to take a break. It
From
gives me a chance to
methamphetamines.
breathe deep. Yeah, and be able to dissect those things and find out what is the healthy things from the unhealthy things, and then just change it so that you substitute the good things with something else and get those benefits without the bad things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of the scale. I think it was Agnieszka, you shared like a few months ago, I believe. That scale, that emotional scale, right? That goes from way low to way up high, full-time joy and happiness and
Oh, the
balance.
Hawkins
So,
map of consciousness.
so like if you might look at somebody who is aggressive or acting aggressively or talking aggressively, it's like, oh, that's totally wrong, or you're so down. But for that person, it might be like actually way above from where they were yesterday. Maybe they were like about, to jump off a bridge yesterday, and like they get the energy up to being actually aggressive and voicing, the feelings they have inside. So
Yeah.
so it's always like, again, it's to consider, the bigger picture that is always there. And it's not
Yes.
it's to acknowledge where you are, of course, but it's also to see the possibilities of where you want to go next. And that's really where I want to leave everybody with, where that question was actually hinting at. What would it mean to you to achieve total holistic health, to total well-being on all those levels? What would that mean to you? Like, because if you set up a goal, then you better, make it a big one, and you make it so that it's meaningful for you. Otherwise, by tomorrow you'll have forgotten it. It's like, whatever your process is, writing down, journaling, or like, just dreaming away, for an hour every day, and picture yourself and figure out where you want to go on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level, on a spiritual level, and take it from there. You have to get yourself excited. You have to just like with a workout, you have to do a good workout, and then after, you might feel some muscle pain the other day, but you have to unbalance a system that has, come to a stillstand or to a certain degree of development. So if you want to develop further, you have to shake up things a little bit, and then through that you force things to adapt again. You force your body to adapt. It's like, oh shit, like we've been doing like 10 push-ups every day for the last 20 years. Let me do 20 today. And I feel that the next day. But then your body's saying, whoa, he's doing 20 every day now. Like I have to add some more muscle. I have to, get a little stronger. And so you have to continuously, change up even that process from time to time, so you don't get stagnant, static in your approach. But you apply different techniques, you work with different people, whatever suits you the best, and at your specific stage that you are at on your journey in your life right now. And take self responsibility for your life and set some goals, make them big, and then go for it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I would just add that, if I asked you to touch your nose with your finger, that's a pretty easy thing to do. And honestly, everything else is just the same. It's a matter of perception, because it seems easy, it's easy to do. And that's really kind of the thing that we bring to this is there's all kinds of easy ways to get things done. It's just a matter of being knowledgeable about how to go about doing it. That really gives you that willpower that, oh hell, it's easy. I can do it. It doesn't take much willpower to do things that are easy, and that's the beauty. of what I think we're bringing to the table here.
Big
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely.
Yes, man.
We already
we're
know
looking
what we're
forward-
doing next week, right?
I was just going to say that. Right. We're looking forward to another show on the general topic of holistic health, and we'll have a special guest next week on Wednesday.
But
So-
on Monday, we're doing the art of loving relationships, which will be a lot of fun. And that we don't really know what's going on Monday. What's going on Monday? Do we have a special guest, or are we just discussing it? Oh, I think Willow is going to take it up a
I was
notch.
really hoping that was not the case because I forgot about it until just this moment.
Well, we'll update you what we're doing on Monday, but it's definitely on art of loving relationships, and we do have some special guests lined up. Not sure if they're for this Monday, but they will be there soon. And
Isn't that a big part of your well-being as well? Loving relationships.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
guys. You
Yes.
guys. Hey, Dennis, I have one last question before we hang up. What essential oils do you have in your little diffuser there behind you?
You spotted it right there. I think I actually put in peppermint because it was down in Emma's room earlier because she's a little stuffy. So it's still loaded with peppermint.
Nice. That keeps
Nice.
you awake too in the middle of the
Yep.
night so you can do the podcast with us and
It worked
lead
so far.
brilliantly. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your attention. We'll be back Monday and Wednesday at 2:30 p.m. Pacific, which is... What's it?
5:30
5:30.
Eastern.
5:35.
5:35 Eastern.
5:35.
And in Germany, it's
Trying to be accurate.
11:30,
11:35
5 at night.
in the evening.
And in
Hawaii would be
Mexico,
11:35.
in the morning.
morning.
Oh, we learned that last week. And in Mexico, it is at Acapulco,
4:35.
4:35 Mondays and Wednesdays in Mexico. PM.
Check out our website.
So morning in Hawaii, evening in Germany, and sometime in the middle of the day everywhere else.
Afternoon.
Thank you for your feedback and for all the questions and the help identifying the etymology of the words. You know, it's really fantastic. I really love to know that people are there taking value in actually, you know, going so far as to look up stuff and you know, giving their time and their efforts to make this.
Yeah, and
very
we were
special thing
getting
that it is.
comments from all sources today, from my personal cell phone and from the YouTube. It was a lot of fun. Thank you very much, everybody, for being such great listeners.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to play the outro now, right? Okay. Get ready.
Blessed love, everyone.